Morning, guys.
Morning.
Want to get him on the set of pledge allegiance first? Or?
Sure.
No, better. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't suppose I could talk to you into bringing me the agenda out of my slot.
It's up there if you want to look at.
Oh, yeah, consider to approve minutes and agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and agenda as presented.
I'll second it. A motion from Derby and second from Jensball to approve the minutes and agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, 8 a.m., discussion with possible action, early retirement policy.
Call Mike now. Galloway.
We don't have it on here. Of course, there's supposed to be something about a possible closed session.
For this?
Yeah.
No.
This wasn't?
No, this is public discussion.
What was the closed session? I thought I saw on the
That was
agenda.
something else.
Public Safety Center.
Yeah.
Oh, that's later.
But I don't think we can have that today again anyway, because Kelsey's busy.
All right. Let's see, I don't have to push, do I have to push in.
9-1 and then the number.
Okay.
Full service gas stuff.
This is Mike.
Yeah, Mike, this is Winnebago County Supervisors.
You good morning, gentlemen?
Good morning.
So Mike, I don't know how much you've seen. Did you see the proposed changes to our policy from last year?
Yeah, I've kind of looked at it. There was, Carla and I had a couple emails back and forth. You know, I know we're going to go through the handbook, guys. It's one of the tasks that we've been charged with. Typically, if we're going to make changes to policy, that's when we would do it. Obviously, that rests with the board's control and discretion. Here's what I would caution you. It's starting to get a feel that we're starting to make changes to address individual issues, and you have to be very cautious about that. And the reason I say that is, if you want to do it, that's fine. Obviously, legally, you can do it, but at some point, the concern becomes if, and maybe I'm misinterpreting the situation, but if we're continuing to make changes for individuals to meet their requests, and then we decide not to do it at a later date, you risk the exposure of, okay, if it's somebody in a potential discrimination case as to why you would do it for these different groups, but not, or individuals, but not this one. So I'd just be very cautious. I mean, it's a very generous benefit that you are getting already. And so you just need to think about those kind of things before you start just each time the policy that you have, somebody wants it changed a little differently to fit their needs. I'd just be very cautious about that.
The only criteria we use in making the decision isn't, you know, the jobs or who it is or whatever. The only criteria that I use is if it's in the best interest, financial interest of Winnebago County.
And I'm looking at the changes in this one, you know, the timeline changing to the end of the year is in the county's best interest, so we have a proper transition.
Yeah, so are you going to change the whole policy, though?
Well, we the proposal changes the age, it moves it from 55 to 60, it moves the continuous years from 12 to 20, and this is a year-by-year policy. I don't see, on my part of it, I don't see a tendency to go back to 55 or 12. I'd probably stick at the 60 and 20 in our best interest. And then on the retire effective date, it was at May 30 because the reasoning for that was to get it done before the end of the fiscal year. But the case might be made that to transition properly, no later than December 31st would be in the county's best interest. Going next year, I guess it wouldn't bother me to go this route if we do it. So,
yeah, I saw the changes, but wasn't and I think you hit on that issue is you were trying to get it so it lined up with your fiscal year so you could look at and see the savings as you were doing it. Did we also in that policy, and I'm driving right now, so I can't quite read it, but did we give the board the each year if there's funds available that you can do this? I can't recall.
We do it on a year by year. If we feel like it says the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors desires through this plan to reduce the potential for involuntary employee staff reduction by presenting an economic incentive to employees to voluntarily elect on their retirement. We've been doing it on a year by year if it fits into our budget and if it's in our best interest, financially, insurance-wise, things like that.
So how would you guys see it going forward? Let's say you adopt to move it December 31st. When are your windows then? Like you would issue it on July 1, you'd have to be signed up by, you see what I'm saying?
You have to be signed up by February 28th so we can start planning.
Yeah, but that would be past your December 31 in your budget year then.
Well, so like for this year, we would be doing it February 28th for 2020, and you have to be retired no later than the end of the year. But under our old plan, right, you would, so let's go back, and when you did your budget for July, that it was effective July 1/19, the board said, okay, we're good, we've got the money that we want to fund this to a certain number, so it went into place on July 1, and under the old policy you had, days to consider, and then you had to be retired by May 30th to give you a little time in the fiscal year, right? Right.
So if we adopt these, so you would set it in your budget this year to become, if you're going to do it for July 1/20, then would you say everybody would have to be out by December 31 of 20?
Yes.
Okay, and then in subsequent years, you'd say budget time comes March 15, 2021 for July 2021. You would say, okay, we're going to implement it again on this July 1. Everybody has to be out by December 31st. Okay, that might be taking advantage of this.
I guess in my opinion, to limit our risk, it would almost have to stay that way because we don't want to go back and forth. But we still want to do it on a year-by-year basis.
Absolutely.
I don't know, what do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, we just had it set up for your timing was in your fiscal year, and yeah, I mean, clearly you guys can change it. I'm just telling you, you do, if this comes up and continues to be a changing policy, you start running risks.
Yeah, the only challenge to this, it runs into 2 fiscal years when you carry over
Correct.
Insurance for another 6 months into the next fiscal year.
The other problem with that is we have to calculate the liability for the financial statements. So when you start talking about changing how much the insurance is gonna be from the previous fiscal year to July 1st, it changes how we have to calculate the liability for our financial statements, which is a big deal.
So you're saying on financial statements for what?
For our external auditors, for the cash and gap reports. We just did it for external auditors for this fiscal year and the fiscal year before. And if we change if we run it over 2 fiscal years, that's gonna change that insurance amount, and it's gonna be harder to put those numbers together.
What do you think, Bill?
I hate to make any extra work for anyone.
We have, historically with the Workers Association had 3-year insurance benefits too, so we were keeping track of all that. It's not something we haven't done before.
I guess I'm a little more flexible on it all, as far as, of course, I'm not the one that has to do whatever you've got to do to make it all balance out, but, usually the county is gonna be saving money, so what's gonna change in the budget is, because I wouldn't make this decision unless it was gonna save the county money. And in this case, I don't even know if I wanna do it anyway, he's a rather talented individual. Hate to see someone like that go,
But this affects other people than just him, anybody who would qualify.
yeah, no, it's, it opens it up.
But everybody in the county's talented, so.
Hmm?
Everybody in the county that works for us is talented, so.
At some level, yes. I don't know about others.
Okay, I'll go with that. Do you see next year changing it in some way? If we were to do it this way, would we change it back in any way, or do you think we'd try to stick with this?
That's the trouble, it all depends on the situation. Normally, it's been fine the way it has been, except for this one here. He wants to,
It's kind of a critical position to deal with.
yeah.
It's not so much the person, but the position.
Allowing him extra time to be there to help train people is one of the incentives to allow this time.
I would say in the past, I was concerned we might have, mass retirements all at the same time, which is, tough for a group of 20.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
What would be, as far as the bookkeeping for the county, what would be the ideal date ranges?
Not to do this at all, that would be ideal.
So we've determined that there is no ideal date. Well, I guess we can kind of table this till Mike gets here. Hopefully he shows up this morning. We've got our information from Mike Galloway.
Yeah, he's given his opinion, so.
All right. Well, we appreciate your help on this, Mike. Kelsey, do you have anything you want to add or ask?
Not really. I mean, I would defer to Mike, of course, on this, but my concern as well is just the continued change if you're changing it every year. I just think that's risky, but
All right.
that's the only thing that stands out to me.
You must be a lawyer.
I am, yeah. Believe it or not.
Always,
Yeah.
always looking at.
All right.
All right, well,
Let me know if you need anything from me.
all right, thank you,
Thanks,
Mike.
Mike.
All right, guys.
Have
Thanks.
a good day.
Yep, bye.
Do we know, is Mike able to be here today?
You might just have forgot it
He'll
was,
probably show up at 9.
Yeah. I suppose it was 8 because of
Yeah.
Mike's availability? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
we can just relay the information to him.
Yeah.
Well,
You want me to come back when Mike gets here, probably?
Let's see, unless you wanna take care of your stuff now, because the next one's timed, and you're
Yeah.
next, so.
I don't really have much, I guess. And nothing specific.
No, it's slow time of year.
Yeah, not too much going on.
I did have one person complaining about, well, the county needs to be, this is on Sunday, county needs to be, cleaning up the sides of the roads and all this. And I said, are you talking drifting or piles? Or, he says, all of it, he says.
Oh, but yeah, Sunday was like, in the morning,
Yeah.
there was a lot of snow that had blown on the road, and then by the end of the day, it all melted, so
Yeah.
no matter what you do, the end of the day is the same.
And I saw they were out blading the icy roads on Monday, so that helped.
it cost a lot less to let it melt.
Until it melted, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was warm, and the pavements were probably 45 degrees, so.
Our streets turned to slush, and then they got all rutted up, and then they refroze.
Right,
And,
yeah. In town where you just got shade,
Like I told her, the people that complained about it, I says, well, all we gotta do is pay them days overtime to come out on Sunday and scrape their roads off.
I'm
yeah,
guessing
pay
we
19 guys
did
35 bucks an
a
hour.
lot more damage on Sunday than we did on Monday. Because of the softness.
Yeah, I mean, that's the unfortunate part of a nice melt is that you get 1 inch of slop on all the gravel roads.
People that blade on hard surface roads don't understand how difficult it is to do on gravel.
Yeah, I mean, you'd sink down this far with your tires and then you'd be making a sloppy mess, mixing the roads with a good snowpack over them and on gravels were probably better off because you didn't sink through them.
No matter what it is, whether it's a loader or a blade on a pickup, or once it gets down to that gravel down there, it's just like it pulls it down in. And
Otherwise, I didn't have anything.
I'm all for paving everything.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
If we just find that grant.
Yeah,
Yeah. That would probably be $100 million.
yeah, could be.
Yeah.
How many miles of road do we have?
Well, we have about 550 unpaved. And to, pave them from scratch, you gotta figure probably 500,000 a mile or something. I don't know.
So I was
If
gonna
you
say,
do them all, it should be cheaper.
Yeah, you get a good
you
bid.
probably get a good bid out of somebody, because they'd be here for a while.
Yeah, of course, we probably run the quarries out of rock and
Yeah.
gravel, but
It's nice to dream about.
yeah.
All right, well, then we'll go on to auditor's office, we'll discuss drainage matters. What is she?
75/30.
Is it 30 or 31? I'm not seeing.
Can we actually skip to Public Safety Center real quick so I
Sure.
can just give you
It's
a
not
brief?
time.
It's not timed, so, yeah.
Yeah, all right, we'll go to possible closed session to discuss number 11, to discuss
You want to
public
do
safety center
you want to do the
issues.
closed session part of it?
No, not today, so,
You wanna table it?
yeah, so, Carla and Kevin got me all the contracts on Friday, and I haven't had a chance to get through them all, and I have depots starting at 9 that I didn't realize today, so I'm sorry about that. So if we could table it till next week, I'm available in the afternoon, because I have court in the morning, otherwise the week after that, I don't
I
have
have
court.
somebody that called me that's a contractor.
Okay.
Has insight on this. What we can and can't do. Would you be interested in talking to him?
Sure. Yeah, if you want to send me the information.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fine. So I just have to comb through, because we have contracts, of course, with John Hanson, and then all of the contractors, so it's kind of a matter of deciding where we go. So, I gotta read through all those before we can really make a decision anyway.
Yeah, this contractor's done many government
Okay.
contracts, so he's well versed in.
Yeah, if you wanna email or text it to me, that'd be great. Then I can give them a call, so.
Make sure I got your cell phone.
You should have it, I think. I've called you on it before.
Yeah, let me look.
Be Adam's old number. I'm not gonna give it out over the air, though.
I know. That's why I'm looking. Yeah, I think I have it. Yep,
Okay.
I'll do that.
Yeah, send me that and then I'll call him this week and get some more information. So do you want to do it for next week afternoon or the week after? Just so I know scheduling wise, so I can
It's
put
been
it.
going on forever now, I don't know another week's gonna matter anyway.
Okay, so 2 weeks from today. I just want to get it in my calendar so I don't double book myself again.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay,
The 18th? Is that what you said?
yeah, that'd be right. Okay, thank you guys.
All right, have a good one.
This is Chris.
11. We're ready for you.
Okay, thank you.
Scott 7530.
Scott 7530, I believe it is.
She 7512.
Yep.
And Carlos #1.
She is
Number 50 in the program, number 1 in your heart.
She's a perfect 10, 75-10.
Not that we're comparing or anything, just.
Yeah. They're all perfect 10s in our eyes, right?
Oh, boy.
So I did, in our platform last night, I did put it in there that we should be supporting legislation that ensures that there's no unfunded mandates, federal or state.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You could be thinking of children's services.
Several things,
Yeah.
several things.
Thank you.
I don't have a problem funding taking care of our own problems. Just don't make me give it to you first and not get it all back. Okay, auditor's office will discuss drainage matters.
I only have what's on here today.
I have some problems.
Okay.
Seems that we sent out a letter for DD 11,
Yes, I talked to Bill Shutter.
and we're still getting at our church, the West Prairie Cemetery.
I talked to Carol Carson.
Okay, you did.
Mhm.
And that's rectified then? Because it's not our cemetery that's in the improvement.
Is it is it the cemetery? And the cemetery isn't yours?
Well, see, the West Prairie Church is in the lower part of DD 11. He has no problem paying for the tree removal and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
down there. But not.
Is it the cemetery that's in the improvement?
$2,000.
And who has the cemetery then?
I don't know who's in charge of that. It's not our cemetery.
Okay.
We call it, unofficially, it's West Prairie. And it was affiliated with a defunct church in Thompson.
Okay.
I think but I don't know, how do the pioneer cemeteries?
What?
How do we deal with pioneer cemeteries in drainage districts?
Somebody
in Winnebago
owns it.
County, we don't have any pioneer cemeteries.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What defines that?
Oh, I'd have to do some research to let you know.
Gosh, we don't put a pillow back there?
No, I'm gonna get a drill, that thing out and put in a pin all the way through. But,
With a lock nut.
there's one out by Rake. There's a little bitty cemetery out, and that one doesn't have anybody in it. Or, I mean, there's.
Do the townships then take care of them?
I don't know if the township, well, no, it doesn't get, I don't think it's mowed. I always wondered what.
That might
who pays on that.
qualify for that, but
I should pull it up on the
At this point,
website and
we
see what
don't-
comes up.
Yeah, we don't,
Officially, we have no pioneer
officially, we
cemeteries.
have no pioneer cemeteries.
Okay. Believe it or not, Charles, we're talking about drainage.
Yes.
May not sound like it, but we have a cemetery over by Thompson, it's called Westbury. But it has no affiliation with Westbury Church.
Okay.
Did you need something?
No, he's, pick up something.
Oh.
Oh,
I'll
I'm
just
just
wait.
entertaining others here.
I thought,
Wait my turn.
so is that, like west or north of Thompson, or is that east?
Southeast of
Because,
Thompson,
Southeast?
2 miles east and
Mike.
2.5 miles south. No, 1.5 miles south.
Okay.
Out by where you
Under sheriff.
live.
oh, just,
He wanted his,
So
and
we
I'm
should
like,
call them the
well, he must have picked them all up.
oh, okay.
I don't know what they're.
Yeah, so I assume he's gonna bring them here at some point.
Okay,
Okay. I'm not exactly sure what kind of a mess is in here.
We'll figure it out.
If you need help, let me know.
Yeah, I've got nothing else.
All right. Somebody that filled out a registration, you need that, right? That goes to you, or is that something?
Yeah.
he'll figure that out later in
You'll
the
get it?
morning.
All right,
Yep,
Yeah.
I'll go in and give it to her. So, tomorrow or the next day.
all right.
Okay,
Good job last night.
thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
We had a little more success than, with the reporting on the.
Efficiency
Was
as
it,
well.
is it the same app they've got that we have?
I don't know.
Does the Republican Party have something different than the Democrat Party, or?
I was hearing they're having 3 things they had to get together to meet up. Some rules they're talking about.
Well, their app failed because of the load, and their call-in failed for some reason, and then their third source is something else.
Evidently, the Democrat did their app screening
Tested.
through the DHS, or
It wasn't meant for that much load.
is that what it
Over
was?
1,600 precincts, contacting all at once.
Yeah, but we had just as many.
How do we report?
Each precinct had to have it reported, so Marcia did 6 for
To
our,
what? How did she report?
there's an app, a power app, it's like a
Yeah,
full app or something, I don't remember what it was.
Jerry Weidemar had it on his phone, and sent it in. They have all the results for the Republican side, it's just the Democrat side.
Yeah, I
didn't
know.
work on. So I would assume that we both had the same app. It'd be just as many precincts for us.
no, I
No,
don't think
no.
so.
It would be.
Not the
No,
same
no,
app.
because our app had, like, they listed Trump and Walsh and Weld. You had to go in and you had to select Trump and put in how many votes he had.
It wasn't done by the same company, I mean, our app would have different names on it.
Oh, that
But, I
way.
mean, I would
That's
assume
not
that, isn't that a state thing?
That's not what I heard.
Oh, so they're not the same? Okay, all right. Well, I mean, I assume that they must be something different, because one worked and the other one didn't, so. So we got the whole nation sitting there biting their nails, still waiting to see what happens.
We look silly though.
Oh, they were talking this morning in the news that this may be the last time that we're first. Anyway, back to the task at hand.
Thank you. I did talk to Bill Shutter yesterday about the mitigation, and I'm not sure how mitigation works as far as who pays for what, so I have talked to John Torbert. I just got an email back from him this morning, so I'll try to look at that. From my brief look at it, it looks like the district should pay for the whole thing as just a part of
So
the
it's even
cost.
worse than what Bill was fearing.
Yes. But I will take a look at that, and I can forward you that email from John Torbert to look at. He also thinks that some of his land drains another way, so I said he had to get with Rick Hopper on that. As far as the classification isn't done.
Now, we classification.
We have a pre-class,
Okay.
but we haven't finished it yet,
Okay, so
because we
still
just
have
wanted
a
to get,
chance to get that in.
right, we wanted to just kind of figure out who is in it and how much, but it's not final. I also, when I sent the letter, I had mixed up DD 18, lat 11, and DD 11 as far as the options,
Oh.
because I put on the letter that they picked option 4 and blah, blah, and that's not true. So I re-explained that to Bill, that my apologies, I didn't I just mixed up the two when I was doing the letter. So, and also in the letter, Rick wants to maybe lengthen the amount of ditch that we do. And then that would lower the cost yet. So I told Bill I would have all of the options, estimates for people when they come to the meeting. I said, but at least the option that I sent is the most that you'll pay.
But if they
You know what I mean? I didn't send the
want it ahead-
cheapest one,
If they
so.
want it ahead of time, you might be able to provide it.
Oh, gosh, yes.
On request.
Oh, yeah.
You're just not gonna mail it out. that
No, because it's next week already. So I said, I'll have it all ready for people. And yeah, I haven't done it yet. I'm doing payroll this week and claims. So yesterday was a little crazy for me, but hopefully today it will be just right on track. So I can get going on that.
So, brings up another question. So in the functions in the office, we're still sort of in transition with the new person in the office. So will your burden lessen some then? Okay.
Yeah,
It's just we're not
Chelsea's
there
gone
yet.
this week.
Oh, okay.
And so obviously Lindsay doesn't know how to do payroll.
Right.
And Carla's kind of busy, so.
But in the process, you're training her. and-
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Lindsay was really busy yesterday with everybody asking about caucus information. So, I mean, we just had, yesterday
Right.
was nuts. So,
And I think for her too, she needs to get through this election in March
yeah.
and concentrate on that. And then we've got time before.
And this, what's nice about the NIAC election, not that it's nice, but it's a good training for Lindsay to get her
Ready for
Oh,
ready
yeah.
for the
The real
primary
stuff.
and the general.
Yeah.
So we can discuss that in open forums. I have a question on that too.
Okay, perfect.
So anyway, I'm assuming that Bill will tell other landowners that that option is the highest that they'll pay and that there is different option amounts. But, and then he wanted to know if they lengthen the ditch, how wide is it and how much are they gonna pay for that land, and is it gonna be $30,000 because it's out of production for life? And I don't know. I don't know those answers. And there isn't any specs because they haven't made a decision. They haven't engineered anything. You know what I mean? They know what they kind of want to do, but it's not formal. So,
Until we determine what direction we're going, they aren't
Yes.
gonna do the exact specs.
yes.
They've got information to do
Mhm.
that, but we have to determine.
We just don't have that final decision. And I did put on the agenda for next week that it's with possible action. If the landowners here decided to do something, you could, but you don't have to. Bill was okay with that. So, I don't know when they're gonna,
So you're saying that by making the ditch longer, that lowers the cost of the,
entire project.
and it would be at a 1 inch.
Right now, yeah. But I don't know when this is gonna, when are you guys gonna say, this is it, this is what we're doing? I feel like I've given them all the information I can. We're gonna have another informational hearing. I feel at some point we just need to make a decision. You guys need to make a decision.
Yep.
And I don't know what that should be.
But I think that the extended ditch kind of threw a wrench into the project.
It sure will.
Realizing
It-
it wouldn't be that hard to make the ditch go through that section.
Right, so I just feel like we need to kind of get going so we can get specs in to get bid letting, get it started, something. This is a lot of engineering for no decisions.
Okay.
I feel like.
I think the other question that Bill had yesterday that we need to just have the code ready for him is that he was like, this is a lot of money. Why can't the supervisors just stop the whole project? And I said, well, because it's an improvement and you don't have the people for the
Right.
monstrance and all that stuff.
Right.
But I think we need to have that code for him so that he can see that.
Yeah, and I've got my book, so I have it highlighted. We can do that.
Shall maintain.
I feel bad. I feel horrible for these landowners.
No.
I do.
Yeah, it's,
And I believe our hands are tied. I do. And then it's what's best for the district, not just that one landowner, what's best for the district.
It was a poorly designed district to start with.
Yeah,
I mean, when you do something at 1/16 coefficient.
right.
100 years ago.
Well, and 100 years ago, it was fine, just not now.
At 1/16, it's still not fine.
Still wasn't
Then
ever
you have
fine?
Yeah, but they're-
deteriorating.
Back then, there was a
Project.
lot more of that ground they weren't farming anyway,
Right,
you know.
right. And I know that Bill is still concerned about, if you do a 1 inch, that's gonna be a lot more water coming down on him and he's gonna get flooded more. And I said, talk to Scott, talk to Mark, talk to Rick. They all seem to say that it won't. And I can't explain why it won't or why it will.
Because of that big ditch that gets rid of it.
And he says the bridge is too small then and it's gonna get backed up and I don't know. I don't know how that works.
Well, in theory, the bridge, because that's the new one, right?
Mm-hmm.
In theory, that was designed to,
For 100-year flood or whatever.
yeah, so it should be able to handle, I guess this is, the sad thing is you don't know for absolutely positive until it's all done, you see it.
I know.
But
Right.
I would say the odds are that it's gonna be better.
But the problem is, Winnebago River still holds everything up.
Well, yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Held up by the Shell Rock, held up by the Cedar, held
And
up by the Mississippi.
right.
Mhm.
So
Ocean, we can't do anything about.
Yeah, it's too bad we can't go through and just clean the Winnebago and
right.
yeah.
what would you do?
I don't know. So I feel bad for everyone. And that's why I keep wanting to
It'd be
tell them
interesting-
everything that I know.
It'd be interesting to see flow studies on something, if you're getting rid of it quicker, does the duration of the backup lessen? Because you got yours there quicker, everybody else's is the last to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense to me that it would be gone.
You're getting rid of more water, so your ground and stuff can absorb more water before. The only problem is when you get back to back, and even sometimes to back, big moisture events, and the ground is already saturated, and so then everything,
And where's the first part it backs up at? The ditch, right? So anything along the ditch is gonna back up first?
Well,
Or does it back up at the far end?
there's a lot of fall there to the river.
Mm-hmm.
it'll back up as the river fills up, and the river, then it'll back up from the river.
Right, so they're worried about that low ground. If it backs up at the river, then they're all gonna be
So
underwater.
maybe we should work on getting Mr. Amberson to be part of the mitigation to where we buy some of his land and swap land.
I don't even know how that works.
Yeah, I don't know either.
So,
Interesting. Then it can just be stored there
mhm,
because he's been paid for that land.
right, I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe
we
it's
asked the
some-
NRCS today.
There you go, I was just gonna say, yep,
He gave me an answer one time, but I kind of went over my head.
yeah. So,
If I hear it a second time, maybe I'll understand it better.
so other than that, I don't have anything.
That's all I have.
All right, well,
Alright.
everything else is good. Times on here, we can go to open forum.
The election, the March election, is that at the regular polling places or is it consolidated somewhere?
No, since I had told everyone that all the polling places will be at the general election precincts from now on, I put them all at the general
Okay.
election precincts.
So I just go to my normal
Yeah,
spot to
because
vote?
I didn't want to confuse people by consolidating and then putting them all back out at the
And
general.
it's a good training.
Yeah.
The other question on that is, do we want to do a proclamation of support? They have a form you can use, and the county can do a proclamation of support for this issue, if you're interested. I know the city was gonna do that, Forest City. One of the things that's gonna benefit us in this area, they're actually going to have a training center. I don't know what the actual term is, but it's gonna be located in Forest City. That's, some of the money's gonna be used for that. So it benefits us locally. closer to Mason City. So it's something we're interested in, put on the agenda and pass a proclamation of support.
Yeah. Makes sense.
If nothing else, at least it gets it in the news and as a positive. I think you can find that on the NIAC.
I'll call.
I think on the NIAC website it's available, so.
Okay. I'll see what I can do.
Or
I have a
talk
ballot.
to somebody at the city,
Okay,
because they were doing it.
okay. I'll find it.
Anything else for open forum?
Let me just check that. There's one. And you need to just sign that. Thank you.
Yeah, I had to read it twice too. Okay, then we'll move on to consider for approval semi-monthly county claims. Get a chance to look through them?
I'll make a motion to approve the semi-monthly county claims.
I'll second it. Motion Derby and second Jeswell to approve the semi-monthly county claims. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Consider for approval payroll claims.
Thank you.
Yeah, when I saw that one in the claims, I'm like, Sean's going into the tile fixing business, but he had Derek gig and then evidently Derek. Sean, or Derek billed Sean, so Sean paid him and they reimbursed Sean.
We don't really like to do it that way, but
Well, no, yeah,
sometimes it
that's,
happens.
And they probably didn't realize that, you know, one of these fairly new in the
Yeah,
drainage world, and,
Yeah,
yeah.
So the new deputy hire, is he local or is he from somewhere else?
well,
He came from,
Northwood.
Northwood.
Okay. Oh, that's right. We took him from.
Yeah, they were complaining, yeah.
Hi, Cindy.
Yeah, everybody wants to get to God's country.
It's always 70 degrees and sunny in Winnebago County.
Oh, that's right, you crossed the border from Minnesota, it's just like you got into the tropics. Welcome to the tropics.
Like the way Bob's copied big curves.
Well,
It's gone through the machine a little,
yeah, evidently something went,
hung up or something.
Unless you trade, it says exactly that card, because this is. Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing.
Federal government. Yeah. You're actually supposed to, this is really what we're supposed to be doing, but. They said if we don't have to, so we just. There you have it.
We didn't have anybody bring out papers to be signed. Mike's position was just like. Not valid.
oh, is that right? Yeah, I'm always wondering if anybody taking out the paper shit.
This side, please include me, and I know somebody's the one.
Right, that's fine.
Like knows.
Oh, is there something here to go?
Somebody's supposed to be coming to grab some.
this thing.
I just.
You don't want to do it.
Okay.
Or they have one.
You got it. He's cutting back on farm.
Is he?
Yeah. The markets go up, they'll change.
I saw him and his brother both on the same day. Same brother's name. Scott, he's got his friend Scott. I hadn't seen him in years.
I'm just trying to plan it.
This is
This fiscal year. Research and,
Another
you know,
Interest over by Lake Mills too.
Oh, is there?
we're not sure it's coming in yet, but it's- could come through.
Well, one was in here at our last meeting.
Is that?
He's got all
That's
sorts of
right.
things, so.
He was one of the requirements at the time, a while back.
It's okay, we don't need to just want to first get it.
Maybe anybody come to pick up papers for District 2?
Yes, elaborate.
But he wasn't there. He would have been at ours last night, wouldn't he?
I think he's in down south.
Down south. Oh, that's where they ended it.
No, like they're vacationing
Oh,
down south.
okay. All right.
So you said Mike Cowan?
Yeah. He was there for the one in Lake Mills last night. And then there was a couple of, one of them was sitting on the meeting last week.
Haven't heard anything from him so far.
He hasn't made a decision.
Yeah.
Were there papers available if somebody wanted to do?
There's always in our office.
But I mean, at the caucus last night, if they didn't have the papers, they wouldn't have been able to fill it out.
Yeah,
Unless they
I
printed
had,
online.
I had extra ones with me. I mean, if somebody would have asked, I,
But there, they probably didn't. So they probably didn't do anything over there. What's the deadline for submitting?
March 15th, isn't it?
no, March 20th, I believe. March 25th for the primary, and March 20th for the general.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Let's see if we can just script the system. Have you ever asked anybody why they did that?
The reason that I heard was so that if somebody lost in the primary, they couldn't run as an independent unless they filled out paperwork ahead of time.
They do that.
What's that?
They still do that.
No.
They can't now.
Oh,
They
can't
changed the
now.
law
Oh, just, how when did they change it?
last year.
Okay, I was gonna say, 'cause that had happened to me. First time ever.
Yeah, they changed. You can't now.
Yeah, to do that, you would have had, so can you do it two different ways then?
So if you had somebody run against you in the primary, you could fill out papers for an independent and turn them in March 20th. And then if you won the primary, then you withdraw your other papers. I know it doesn't make much sense, but I actually had something, I'm gonna try to explain. I made up a thing and I'm gonna put it in the paper in a couple weeks that explains all that. Actually, hopefully,
I'm guessing it was part of a big bill that you just kind of slipped it in there. Probably to do with school funding.
probably. they passed a lot of election laws last year that I didn't understand the reason for it.
They've done a lot of things that I don't understand. I would certainly do it different. Statewide supervisors meeting last week,
How'd that go?
just to make sure, because while they had the new head of the Department of Human Services talking, and,
Who's that again?
who would ask, God, I can't say it, I can tell you the old one's name,
Yeah, me too.
Boggs Owen.
Yes, I
Male
can.
or female?
Female,
Who's
she's
it?
from Texas.
Oh, that one, yeah, I remember seeing her.
I can tell that she was, and I would like to see why they got rid of Foxville, because I wonder if he started questioning the MCOs and that whole thing. And he's not on page with the governor, got asked to resign, but if he's suing the state for wrongful dismissal, huh? And they had, and mental health is children's services, I mean, they had those two, and I'm like, I wanna be there for that, so. But,
Kelly Garcia.
yeah. You could have wrote it down on a piece of paper with 10 other names, and I could have picked it out. Morning, Mike. Morning, everyone.
So we had the 8 o'clock, the conference call with Mike Galloway, so we got the information.
Sorry.
We haven't made any decision yet, we just gathered the information.
So we've got a head start on you. Start getting writer's cramp after a while, you can't even spell your own name.
Try doing it with bandages on.
No, on that clock it is, but on mine, we still got a couple minutes.
It's right there.
All right. Of course, we had 2 cell phones last night at the caucus. One was 4 minutes faster than the other one. Mine was, yeah, and one was Verizon and the other one was US Cellular.
Mine says 850.
US Cellular's always off.
3G
No,
and
no, but
4G
the
or
other
5G,
people-
whatever it is, that's the difference.
Then we checked 3 other cell phones, mine, and they all correlated with mine, so it was the Verizon one that was off. Well, different, maybe that one's right, and the rest of us were all wrong, I don't know.
I think that's fast.
Yeah,
You got
according
a
to
minute.
mine, it's
You
8:59.
got a minute.
Well, the bell tolled, so.
Yeah, the bell toll, we'll go with that, that's the effect.
That one is definitely not scientific.
The chairman gets to say what it is.
We're in Bill Jensville time zone.
Yeah, there you go, it's just, and it's a foggy place.
Still standard time.
I always get a kick out of Stan Walk when he conducts our transportation policy meeting down in Mason City. And by Mitchell County rules, we're adjourned.
Yeah. All right, 9 AM, city limit to Veteran Affairs to discuss possible action taxes on air travel.
Well, I just was scheduling, I have a conference in California, which required for my veteran certification, went to go do airfare and turn it in and realized that, oh, the county currently doesn't reimburse for the taxes on it, and there's $50 worth of taxes on my flight. So I either have to take that personally or look at adjusting policy to allow it. All that money is paid for through grants or reimbursed through the VA through a grant money. So all my education expenses are.
What is their definitions then through VA?
Air definitions.
They pay the,
Well, they just give us that block grant of $10,000,
Okay.
and we're supposed to use that for education expenses and a few other things, outreach and a couple other things, primarily for education expenses. So
they don't define whether they pay for
no,
tax or not.
no. So
Is there any way to apply for a refund on this?
I did it through Cheap Tickets, and then I also, which is a Delta flight, and that was the cheapest way to get on this flight. And I called them, they referred me to Delta. I called and talked to a person at Delta, and they don't refund any transportation tax or anything. You know, it's broke down to like 5 different types of taxes for FAA.
So our current county policy is that we pay no tax. The only tax we pay is hotel, and that's because we have to. I did talk to, I sent out an email to all the other county auditors, and I had a few respond that they pay taxes on hotels, food, travel, that kind of stuff, because technically it's not billed to the county. If something is billed to the county, that's when it has to be tax exempt. So, a lot of counties do, well, not a lot. That's about 50-50. I hate to discourage someone from traveling because they would have to pay for some of that tax themselves.
That's a lot of tax.
Mm-hmm.
That's, in a sense, part of the expense of traveling. Because you can't book the flight from the counties, they give you, did that, would it be tax exempt then?
Well, but I don't think you.
But you can't, because it's gotta be the
It's gotta
individual,
be
especially
individual.
nowadays.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can't do it.
Even at the state level, I know they have to book personally and get reimbursed, so.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I
And with the food, the counties that pay the tax on food also have an amount that you can't exceed. So we don't have that right now, so I would just leave our food and all that the same, but I would suggest that we pay the tax on the air travel.
Okay, so are you changing the policy or doing a waiver on the policy?
I think that we should change the policy.
Yeah.
And we can include, I think you could do it one time today, and then when we look at the policy book, I think we could add that to that.
I was just gonna say, we're gonna check the policy book anyway, there's a thing, we're gonna go through it, but that'd be the time to change it, so.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to waiver the,
Are we calling it waiver or changing the policy?
we're not changing the
We'll
policy.
change the policy when we go through the policy book. But right now, we'll waive the policy to pay this one now,
So it is a waiver.
yeah.
However you want.
Okay.
Put your word on it, I don't.
I'll second it then.
Okay, a motion from Senator and a second from Derby to
Waive the
waive
policy.
the policy for paying taxes on air travel. All in favor?
For
All in
this,
favor?
for this case, right?
For this case, yeah,
And
yeah.
then we'll address it later.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Sorry, you had to go through that.
Well, that's okay. I'm learning with dealing with
Well, it was a
County.
good time to change our policy because we're changing policy.
So it's trying to update it, so thank you.
Besides that, I give you a chance to come in here and see our shiny faces, right?
I know, I learned more about your process,
You feel educated now.
and you're working, so that's good.
Yeah.
So what we got left is NRCS.
Yeah.
Could have been a record meeting.
You're done.
All we got is 9:20.
9:15 and 9:20.
Yeah.
You know, we should have just called you and told you to, probably could have just said, well, we're gonna share with
Yeah,
you.
we still have to, we could talk about that now.
Yeah, let's go back to,
Retirement policy, 8 o'clock.
I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay.
And Mike Galloway just basically said that he doesn't think that we should be, changing policies, that we should have something. set.
Altering it every year.
Altering it every year.
To benefit people.
For the, which, if we were making the decision to benefit,
Wonders.
well, people, depending on what they are, who they are, but the only thing that factors into the decision for me is how the policy is in the best financial interest of the county. I don't know how they could get you on any kind of discrimination for that.
So we can look through what Scott has proposed here. I guess, in my opinion, I like the wording, the better interest of the county to have that, to get found out and shoot Carl. It's challenging to go 2 different fiscal years with this. Of course, even doing 1 fiscal year is challenging.
You might say anything about, if we just simply put if it's in the best interest of the county, does that brought up using that as
Well, he
criteria?
understands all that.
I know, but using that as criteria for the policy.
I think we're okay doing what we're doing. And I guess,
My question was, is that good enough? Just using that one.
okay, so the question really came up, what are we gonna do next year? Are we gonna keep this criteria for next year, or are we gonna change it back to what it was before? My opinion I brought out was that I think it should change, or it should stay, this criteria a little more strict for next year, rather than go,
Early retirements, experience-wise, aren't always best for the county. That's the thing I have against an early retirement, allowing it to happen, is because you don't want the employees to move on. It's, in a sense.
And I think we struck the policy altogether and not do it anymore. I do.
Before dealing with this one,
that was before dealing with the last 2. That's what she said.
doesn't like me, but I could go either way on it, so. I guess the criteria I would like to use is that if it's in the best interest of Winnebago County, why wouldn't we do it? It's gonna cause problems down the line, and that pretty much nixes it too, in my opinion, so.
What do you think, Bill?
Well, basically what he said. Yeah, if there's financial benefit to it, why not? But then if it's creating a lot of hassle, we just get to make the decisions, other people do the work.
Yep. And whatever you decide is fine with me. I
Yeah,
just,
no, I know what you.
Well, if you wanted a concrete answer from me, I would lean more towards benefiting the county. I mean, if we could save even $10,000,
Well, it's projected over the, 3 years he's got on that one sheet, 30,000 in savings.
That'd be the- Almost. Well, over the next 5 years, it's cumulative
5 years?
savings of 26,000.
All right.
what would your little group and I don't mean that derogatorily, 2 or 3 people, what would you know what we're talking about? Early retirement?
Yeah. I don't know what was being proposed.
Yeah. What do you think your group would think of that?
What was proposed?
Okay, so what we were before, the last 2 years, each year, we individually offered a policy for early retirement. And at that time, we were offering, you have to reach 55 years of age, and you would have a minimum years of 12 continuous years of working at the county. And you had to retire no later than May 30th of that year. And the reason for the May 30th was so that it didn't go into another fiscal year, limit the fiscal year. So then we had an offer this year to go from 55 to 60, and from the 12 years to 20 years, minimum criteria, but then extend the date of retirement to the end of the calendar.
And then what are you offering in the
The 1 year of insurance.
single health insurance?
Same as last year, but we just changed some of the formulation to get there. So in one way, we're making it more strict, but we're allowing, the reason for this one, it came up this way because of the transition. It's easier to transition a position if you have no time to plan.
I mean, if you were getting to the end of your career and health insurance is always going to be the issue. So I think, so what is the savings then?
So the first year, we actually lose 5,400. The second year, we're gaining 2,300. The third year, we're up to 10,000.
Is that because of the salary that you're going to pay that
Well,
person?
you're going to have the overlap of
Training.
insurance. You have 2 people on the insurance.
But the salary is different too?
Right. You'll be less experienced, and it all depends on how they, like in this one position, it depends on how they do it too.
I wouldn't see where people would have a problem with that as long as it's available to everybody. Same way.
Well, that's just it, we've changed it over the course of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be just one department could do it, nobody else.
Yeah.
As long as you got a uniform policy.
We're kind of down on, we've got to decide today if we're going to live up to that end of the month decision. You have to let us know by February 28th or whatever it is. February 28th. So it could be the 28th.
Well,
this year.
I'll say my piece of mind on this number, I'm for it, if it saves the county 26,000.
Over 5 years, you said?
Yeah.
And I agree with you, and I think the longer term to the end of the year is beneficial to the county, just for that transition.
If you figure 26,000, then it takes us a pretty good per hour, I would guess.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to put forward the adjusted voluntary early retirement plan as presented to us.
I'm gonna second that. Motion Derby, second Rude to approve the early retirement plan as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, then we'll probably go back to the other office. We'll discuss drainage matters now that Dave is here.
Let's do it.
Oh, no, all right. I've already been through it. Cody and I gotta have a game letter for
That's where I remember it.
And you take 20 years.
All right, 9:15 a.m., consider for approval, Wetland Restoration Project on DD5, lats 15 and 16.
Who wants to talk first?
I'm sorry, which drainage district were you referring to?
The one in Mount Valley.
DD5, lats
With
15 and 16.
The Larson one.
The Larson.
Yeah, if you just want to reiterate what you're doing to them and they can,
Yeah.
because you guys know about this one.
Well, he came in and gave us a report earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah, JD did.
so they just wanted to have your approval on it so they can move forward.
Well, okay, question I'm gonna have is, we're currently going through a process north of Thompson. How did we come out on that? North of Antarctic. Did we get straightened out on the problems with the tile and how it gets rectified and things like that?
It appeared to be plugging tree roots,
Yeah,
and we got it opened up, and then that was replaced.
and who paid for it? Is it getting billed to the project, or is it, we've got complaints from the surrounding landowners that they were being billed for it? Do we know how this is being done?
Yeah, I haven't had anything clarified yet, because I know I sent you an email and that they might pay part of the bill, but not all of it. So I have to dig into that further. I haven't done that yet.
I guess I've never had any discussion from the very beginning. When I talked to the guys, I said, we had no money at that point in time.
Yeah, well, the Iowa code says that the landowner is responsible for the tree roots above a tile line, and surrounding landowners should be liable for it then, right? So that's what our concern is. Are we developing more of this that we will surrounding landowners liable?
And we, in the past, we've held our own county conservation
Right.
responsible for the same.
And it has come up once in Norway too, where we build up the land.
So NRCS is the easement holder, but the landowner still is responsible for some of that maintenance, okay? So on DD 29, the landowner is Iowa DNR.
Okay.
When we went out there, we met with them. Lynn met with them. Our agency feels very similar to you folks. It is the landowner, I mean, a tree over a tile line to us is a weed. So we expect them to help maintain that as well. If they don't, I don't have a lot of teeth to force them. I don't have anything I can take away from them, put it that way. My understanding is you guys assessed the district for that. We told them up front, that's your tile, you'll have to do that. If it was something that we did that blocked that, we would have paid for it.
In the project.
Correct. As far as the maintenance goes, that's something that we do have to hold the
And I
landowner
know
responsible for.
DNR pays some of their bills, but not all. I don't know, it's kind
Depends
of.
on which part has it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some of this is going to be going public, and some of this next project we're going to talk about will be both state and local county owned.
Well, maybe we should talk
private.
about that then, how this one's doing.
Because this is a totally separate one than the Larson. The Larson Ralph one stays private, so it's just between those folks. So that project's totally different, and that's totally different than that DD 29 one north of Thompson. Landowners, I think, were upset that they got billed for it, but it's not our agency standpoint that we can take it up with them, because we ask them to do maintenance. You folks and the landowners really we really should have had him here to discuss that so they could address it, because I can't speak for DNR either, you know.
And that's something I have to figure out.
And that was a conversation I had with them when we did the tile investigation, where we knew where the problem is. We had, Dan was there, I forget, Gary Wonder was there. I said, before you say you're gonna do this, you better find out who's gonna pay for it, because at this point in time, we didn't have funds. So that's when my understanding was they were supposed to get an estimate.
Well, I guess that's what I'm at. Now I'm clarified that it's the DNR that's on the land for it, not the NRCS.
Right. We are the easement holders, but they are still, we don't own fee title. We are only the easement holders. So we still expect landowners to do meetings, even if it's only that, over that tile line and a little bit to each side, we still expect them to help maintain that. And we go through that when we do a plan. I don't have any enforcement action though. Can't find anything.
Well, let's talk about the one on the agenda then. I just wanted to bring that up
Yep.
because it raises concerns in our next project. You know,
I
wanna know
totally
how it's
agree.
gonna affect this one.
Totally agree. This next project, I'm gonna let JD go, Matt. He's the civil engineering technician who's been working on it, and Sarah Anderson and Corey, they've put together the plans. I'm gonna let them talk about this.
Do you have a spot where I could?
Excuse me, but could you do your approval on the number 6, please? The Larson one?
Oh,
85 less 15 and
that's the one
16?
we were presented, that you presented.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
No, okay.
There was all the affected landowners are in on this.
There's no cost to the landowners.
I'll probably remember, where is it?
Up in Mount Valley.
The old Peterson, is it Peterson
Okay.
Farm?
Was her Peterson
Oh, yep.
was part of it there, that her Peterson Farm, Carlisle, Ralph used to live.
April.
So I sent letters to all the landowners telling them about it and that there was no cost to the district, and I had not heard one thing from anyone. So my assumption then is it's okay.
You okay with that?
Yeah. Make a motion to approve the Wetland Restoration Project, DD5, that's 15 and 16.
I'll second the motion.
Still here in a second. Derby to approve the Wetland Restoration Project on DD5, lots 15 and 16. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay,
Moving on.
9:20 a.m. in NRCS to discuss the possible action Wetland Restoration Project in Mount Valley Township.
I have a computer with a PDF. Is there a place I could hook it up so we can see it on the screen?
Do you want me to hook something up, or do you want us?
Just plug PDF, or it's a flash drive, or what do you have?
I have a computer. It's just on
So
there.
you could just take the cord.
Yeah.
Yep. Otherwise, I've got hard copies too.
Might have to.
A couple of them.
Print it out for you.
I still got you hooked. Thank you. You can pull this table over so that you can sit if you want to. Or
There's a laser pointer.
Okay, super. So I know I've been here before. I'm JD Gomat. I'm a civil engineering technician with the NRCS, so I'm typically the guy out in the field with Lynn. I do construction plans. On this particular project, it's very large. There's several easements. The first page is an overview. And because just the scale of the project, we can't fit everything on one page. So you'll notice it says like sheet 2, 3, and 4. And then there's a boundary that corresponds. Just trying to get the laser pointer to work.
Yeah, I got one, JD.
Okay. No. So because of the scale or scope of this project, and it's so large, there's so many easement holders, I work with myself and then Corey Mickle, using the coat there, and then Sarah Anderson. And they're both PEs, professional engineers.
I'm a PE.
Okay, yep. So that's their credentials, and we work together to sit down to basically do an inventory, more or less a water budget on each of these easements. You'll see the blue areas are potential areas where we're looking at doing wetland restorations. And then within those, there's also, we've denoted, like this is Drainage District 88. I believe this is, can't quite read it.
89 or 83.
This is Drainage District 83. This is 89. And then this is 101 over here.
Are those blue areas being farmed right now?
Some of them are being cropped, or they're in a stage where they've been seeded to grasses, but maybe they're not established yet. The yellow dashed lines on the outside, those are the easement boundaries. And then there's a name on each of those. That refers to the actual easement. So again, the blue areas, those are areas that are, some like on the DNR property are in some stage of kind of a wetland right now where there might be some standing water. But the blue areas is basically areas where we see there's more potential for standing water. Like I said, when we put together a water budget, we look at if we disable the tile or we surface outlet the tile, what is the potential for that water? How high will it get? And then where will it go when that restoration happens? So I think what we'll do is I'll try and go through each easement individually and kind of explain what the landowner is looking for permission to do from the drainage district. So this is page 2. There's an easement here up at the top. It's a Holton piece. Right now we have a drainage district tile that runs through the middle of this basin that we'd like to do restoration on. What we're proposing doing is disabling the tile through the middle here and replacing it with a non-perforated equivalent that we'd route along the outside of the edge of the wetland. That would be beneficial. We like to put the tile on the outside edge. That way, if there's ever any maintenance issues in the future, it's easier to take care of rather than it's out in the middle of a pothole.
Yeah, both outside edges.
It'd be just along the south edge right now. And keep in mind, I guess as I go through these proposals, this is kind of the real early stages. So I'm going to give you an approximation in terms of numbers and that type of stuff for what we're proposing. And we're looking for your input of, yes, this is a good idea, or no, we disagree or we have concerns. So at this point, these are not final construction plans. Before we move forward with the project, we kind of want to get your input or your blessing on it, your concerns or your thoughts on the project. So to restore this particular basin, like I said, disable the tile through the middle, replace it with a non-perforated equivalent. And then what we'd like to do, in order to control this pool, put an intake down here with its own separate tile, and then surface outlet that tile down below. That would allow us to have kind of the dark blue shading is where we're looking at, that's where the permanent pool would be. So that's where at any given time you would expect the water level to be. After a rain event, when you get surface runoff, the light blue shading is where we think that water will temporarily be. And the way we do that is we spent a significant amount of time, we estimate the drainage area, how much area actually drains into that pothole, and then look at on a particular storm, say in a 4.5-inch rain, how much water actually makes it to that basin based on a set of equations. And then our biggest concern when we do these restorations is always that we maintain drainage and that we don't make anybody else wetter. That's our two primary goals. So you notice this temporary blue line, if we get a big rain event, still stays on easement. That's what we're looking to do there. One of the concerns we have on this project is the road is kind of where the natural low is. As this fills up, the water wants to stack against this road. So what we'd like to do, or what we're proposing to do, is stack some additional fill alongside that road. Probably an area maybe like a 20-foot bench, and then a side slope of some sort.
Yeah. What's the address of that road?
That is
375th.
375th.
Hello.
Scott, could you come up here?
Sure.
All right, thanks.
That's one of the things about this project is there's a lot of stakeholders. There's the drainage district, roads, landowners. There's a lot of different folks that we're trying to make sure we get input from everybody.
So by retaining it longer in that area.
Yep.
Are you taking some of the burden off downstream?
Yeah, so right now, this is perforated tile. So that's picking up drainage from the farm field. So we'd eliminate that. And then down at the bottom, there's an intake down here that as this fills up right now, that water basically all makes its way into that tile system. So by removing the intake and non-perforating this, yeah, you're going to take some pressure off that tile.
So Scott, we talking about this structure. You see it?
Boy. Okay, let me get up to speed.
Yeah.
So,
to summarize, what we're looking at doing is wetland restoration with a landowner.
Okay.
On a particular piece here in Winnebago County. And
Mount Valley.
if you look at, this is the road right here, the county road, system runs east-west. Right now, this water currently, it fills up, it stacks up, and then water probably stands on the toe of the ditch there.
There's no culvert there.
Yeah, there's no culvert.
That's an important piece to this one. There is no culvert there. It's actually higher on the south side of the road, the ground is, than the north side of the road. So there's only an intake that goes into the existing drainage district tile.
Yep.
So it sits water a long time right now.
So there's no place for the water to go. And then when we do restoration, the proposed restoration, I think it'll get wetter. And so to protect the toe of the road, what we were thinking of trying to do is put some additional fill along the slope of the road. We were thinking something like an area maybe 20 feet wide, and then run a slope off of that.
Kind of widen the road bed itself.
More or less, just to try and keep that, whatever saturation is there, trying to keep it off of that road bed.
If you have to rip wrap it,
Probably not.
As opposed to, shifting a berm north and trying to, I don't know, keep it dry.
The problem with the berm is basically, since this is the low area, then when it rains, water is probably just going to sit on both sides. So we really thought probably the best thing to do is just probably put some additional fill along that. The only thing that might be kind of tricky is I assume you'd probably have to do some sort of grading with the ditches, because both of those ditches probably run to the bottom of that low. So, yeah, by doing the restoration, in this case, the road is one of our concerns, and so trying to mitigate whatever saturation that we might have. Like I said, currently it stands water. We went through kind of the aerial photos on each of these, looked at kind of the history from like 1930 all the way on. And you can see this one has drowned out a lot of years. So it's probably currently happening to some extent right now, but we know when we restore it, it's going to be wetter. And so then we want to try and mitigate any issues that we have. So.
Do you know the traffic flow on that road by any chance?
No.
Not the number, but like the most west on that road before the T, Does that farm place go east to get out of their place or west? Would you guess?
I really can't say. I'm not familiar enough without looking at a bigger map.
I know
to
some
see.
people that do live out there, they just go east to the highway and come south.
They do, okay. And that takes that out of the equation.
The road is really high there. Like the road is,
No, where the black is.
where the road is. The road is,
That's where we have to ameliorate the road, right?
yeah, but the road is really, really high there too. It's not low or anything, but it's,
Yeah.
There would be a low chance of it overtopping the road.
Well, I'm going
Because the road
to
is
too.
at
Yeah.
1240
I thought you
feet.
said you needed to either burn that up or,
Yeah, the reason the berm is there is I think the water at the very bottom of the toe, so the very bottom of the ditch, water's gonna stand. And so over time, we just don't wanna have any impacts on
Right,
your.
okay.
on
Yeah,
your-
I guess that is a good question, is what the water level would be like in comparison to the road surface.
Mhm.
Seems like where we have water encroaching on the road surface, we have more potential for damage to the road than if it's saturated 10 foot down.
Yeah, I think we've got some numbers on here for like pool and all that. I think we're gonna try and maintain this at, what does it say, 1230?
1235. Or
12.
1235 would be the berm,
Okay.
and the pool would be maintained at 1233.
And the road at the low is 1240.
So they're
Like
approximately from the top of the road to where we're gonna maintain water level, 7 feet.
Yeah, I mean, it's not terribly concerning as if it was a couple feet. I mean,
Right.
we have issues around the county where the water is a foot from the roadbed almost all year long, so.
Yep, you're
much more
talking,
problem.
yeah, you're talking probably 7 feet from the crown of the road to the, to where the water
Yeah,
level is
I
gonna be.
Building the roadbed wider could have other concerns with, snow drifting or things like that, especially on the north side, so. Not sure how we feel about that.
It's not something you need to make a decision on today, it's just, we're looking for input, so.
Sure. So you got to propose one option to kind of widen the roadbed. What would be the other option there?
I mean, to not do restoration, just to not be able to do anything there. I don't know if we tried to do a second berm above. I know we discussed that a lot, but it just really wasn't a great option when we looked at what we could do, so. I will point out too, there's some dash lines here. The pink is the county tile infrastructure. From a layer, I believe you guys maintain a GIS layer of that. And so what I've done is I've overlaid that in my map. I've made some adjustments to it just because when they draw it in, it's not always 100% accurate. But the dash lines, that's where we want to disable that tile or remove that tile. So on a big scale, as you look further downstream, we've got a spot here. This is all infrastructure on Drainage District 83, is that right? That we'd like to remove. What we'd like to do a little further downstream from this embankment is actually take this tile and surface outlet it. Right above this wetland, kind of the blue area down below it. What that will allow us to do is all this infrastructure that's kind of through the middle of this wetland right now. It's currently wet down here, but probably not to its full potential. That one takes the drainage, or it takes the drainage off of that's currently doing right now, and then basically gives those landowners above it a free outlet, and it's infrastructure that wouldn't have to be maintained in the future. So if we looked at the option of, say, non-perping this, doing that instead, you still got to deal with trees, and you still, these easements are forever. So if you think long-term, you're always going to have some type of maintenance out in the middle of the pool, and that's definitely not ideal. So by surface outletting this, I think it gives the landowners up above better drainage. They're no longer having to deal with any of the water down below. Granted that they're higher, so they're probably going to still drain first. But it does take the pressure off that line from down below. The cooperation that we would need from you to do that is if we put an intake up here and we hook this up, we'd have to open up this road and run a new tile through it. So the way that we're going to control the pool level on this to make sure it doesn't get any higher up here is by putting an intake on it and then surface outletting that tile and then surface outletting the drainage district tile. So we need permission from the drainage district to surface outlet it here and then put an intake up here. So you're talking a pretty significant amount of infrastructure that you're looking at potentially disabling on that particular drainage district. Just kind of overall down here, what we're planning on doing is putting in a dike structure, so a small embankment. And we would, all the infrastructure down below this, we'd leave that intact. So I'll move a little further downstream. So this is that same drainage district that we're proposing abandoning this tile. We'd leave the dike here. We put an intake, and that intake we would then hook up to the existing county tile. So that helps control this pool level. And then this particular area here, we're proposing just leaving intact as is. We've got the north-south road here that's pretty close. And so doing any restoration down here really concerns us because I think we're going to have impacts on the road. So we kind of want to leave that area as a buffer, leave it as is.
Is his tile big enough, or, and the inlet's big enough to, I guess one of my concerns would be all these blue pools here, the ponds, are they going to encroach on the good farmland that the guys are farming around it?
No, if you look at the blue areas, they're all confined to the easements themselves. So we're not doing any restoration on anybody that is out of the easement. It's all strictly confined to the easement boundaries.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it is, but that doesn't mean the water can't flow over the easement lines.
What we do when we put together that water budget that I was telling you about is we look at how much water are we adding from the tile system that we're surface outletting. And then we're looking at the intake that we put down here, how much capacity does that have? And we're trying to match those. So basically the tile that we surface outlet and the intake that we have, we want those two to cancel. So it's essentially the same system. Now this pool is going to get wetter because it doesn't have the ability to drain like it did before. So then the next thing we look at is that runoff that I was telling you about. And on these particular pools, because they're so big, they have a lot of storage in them. They have enough storage in them that they can contain the rain without ever going over top of the road. Now you might have, you know, a 1 in 100 year storm. If you get 8 or 10 inches of rain,
What town you been living in?
well, in those situations though, I don't think you're going to see anything different than what you were already going to see. In other words, everything's going to be wet, but it was already going to be wet. If you get 8 or 10 inches of rain in 24 hours, that's just the situation you're left with. Each of these pools, we did a calculation on it. And like I said, what we're always trying to contain at a minimum is a 4.5 inch rain, which isn't unheard of, but it's kind of over a 10-year span. That's probably on average kind of one of the larger events. I believe a couple of them had much larger even storage areas. I believe, was it this one, Corey?
Yeah. That one and the one below it can both handle 100-year storm.
So when we say 100-year storm or a 10-year storm, that means that you have a 1 in 100 chance or a 1% chance in any given year of getting that storm event.
And like the majority of that map, or at least the top half and to the west, is public land. The county owns about 200 acres that are across the middle and on the west side.
Well, I guess where I'm going with this is encroaching close to Harvey Nyhus, and we had a huge problem there. It'd be north and west. Would it be west? I know it's north.
He's more west.
What's that?
He's more west.
He's more west than north? Okay. So I don't want to do anything that's going to affect his land.
This this is the area you're talking about, this is the problem. We have. That should be a ridge right there.
And in terms of goals and all that, that's our goal also. Like I said, I'll say it a couple of times here, our priorities when we do these restorations are not make anybody else wetter that's not on the easement and maintain everyone's drainage. Those are the two most important things. These we were really fortunate on. I believe that we can do really good restorations while still doing those two things. Had we run into a spot here where we thought we just can't do it without making somebody else wetter, then we just seed it down to vegetation, and it is what it is. We can't always get every single restoration we want, just because we have with the standard that we operate under in order to do these restorations specifically states that we can't or we should not do any adverse impacts to folks outside of the wetland restoration area. So those are our goals also.
So, refresh my memory on this in your restoration project.
Mm-hmm.
How much of this is there any of it that would have solid tile going through it, or would it be just avoiding it on the edge?
If we look further, like up here, this would all be abandoned. This particular lateral, I think this is DD 89.
Yeah.
We'd abandon that stretch there. The blue line here, that would be non-perforated tile that we continue to maintain. I believe this is already non-perforated.
Yep.
So we'd continue to maintain that. The reason, like here, we want to maintain that is there's a small area up here that's closer to the road. So what we want to do up there is we're going to put an intake and run a tile down here. So we need to maintain this tile in order to provide some control. There's also the potential over here. We're not 100% sure, but there may be a neighbor that has a tile hooked up. And so we want to make sure we have an outlet for them if that's further to the south, this would be, I believe this is the Kingland piece. We'd look at this right now as perforated tile. We'd look at replacing this with non-perforated.
Sorry, nonsense.
Okay. All three here?
Yes, that blue line right here.
Okay.
It's already non-perf.
Okay.
So we've not put it on the easement downstream.
Yes,
Yep.
this part.
So this is down south and to the west. This would be, I think the landowner's name's here, Nelson's. This is sheet 4. So this would be the last sheet. Drainage District 83 continues on down to the creek here. What we're proposing doing here is replacing a small section with non-perforated tile and then disabling this all the way down to the creek or the river down there. And at this point, really the only thing that this tile, the Drainage District tile, would be servicing is that intake that was slightly up above that dike. So there's not any real infrastructure above that that's really draining anyone at that point because it all been disabled. There are a couple of laterals here from this neighbor. We want to maintain those. So we look at disabling that, removing that. And then if you come over to Drainage District, I believe this is 101. We look at disabling this section here that's perforated and replacing it with a non-perforated equivalent. So I ran kind of some numbers overall just to kind of summarize. On Drainage District 83, we'll go back to sheet 1. On Drainage District 83 here, we'd look at abandoning approximately 6,636 feet of tile. We'd look at replacing some of that with non-perforated, approximately 2,510 feet. So overall, you'd have on this particular drainage district right around 4,000 feet of tile that would be abandoned. On Drainage District 89, this one over here, if you look at what we abandoned, what we replaced with non-perf, the total would be right around 1,800 feet of drainage district infrastructure that would be abandoned. And then on Drainage District 101, this one down here, we're going to abandon some, but we're actually going to probably put in more non-perforated, so there'd actually probably be about 100 foot more of drainage district tile, just because right now it runs through the middle, so we're looking at rerouting that around the side. So overall, those are pretty significant changes. It's a fairly large proposal. Overall, though, I think what it does for your upstream landowners is it allows them to drain, hopefully better, because they're not competing with all of the downstream. It's less infrastructure for the drainage district to have to try and maintain. A lot of this infrastructure is already in not very good shape. A lot of it's old clay concrete that's, blown out, and hopefully there's some cost savings there for the drainage district, not having to continually maintain that. And then what we are able to remove is also less potential for trees. Obviously we don't want that, like was discussed earlier. So that's kind of the big picture overview. The things that I guess we need to know from you folks is that something you're comfortable with? What is your process for determining if that's okay? I don't know, do you have to have meetings? Do you have to have public hearings? Do you need to review the engineering? Those type of things in order to kind of secure this permission.
Only if it affects them, and then only if it costs them money. Where there's a threshold there.
I have a question. Does this involve DD 88 at all? It doesn't disrupt their outlet? Because that is a trustee district?
There is one small pothole that will drain into there.
Okay.
It's on page, it's on sheet 2. There's a water control structure that will go into that tile. That's the only.
It's on the private tile.
Yeah, it's
above
going.
the drainage district tile.
Okay.
So
It's a trustee district, so they have to make that decision.
Mhm.
And I did talk to one of them, and they couldn't be here today. So I will send them this information, and they can get a hold of it.
Yeah. So basically on that particular one where we're looking at doing work is on the private tile upstream above it. So. In terms of cost to the drainage districts, I believe the only place that it gets tricky are areas where we're off easement. So on this particular tract here, we cannot spend any money off easement. So where it goes through the road right here, if we would be replacing this tile through here as proposed, that's not something that we have a mechanism to pay for. So
Any work in the road is done by the county, right?
Normally it is for, maintaining normal drainage district infrastructure and private tile lines.
But you normally have control over that too. I mean, whether to spend that money or not, right?
Usually we're obligated to spend it in order to, maintain drainage district tile, private tiles across the road.
I guess the better question would be then, are we under any obligation to look at what this would cost us?
I think that's the good question that I'm not certain of.
Yeah.
I would lean toward, I think it is our responsibility to pay for that as the secondary road department, but I probably want to get a firmer answer on that.
So what would we be changing going through the road?
So to control the pool here, we need to have an intake. There's an intake currently right now on the very bottom of the pool that drains the whole thing.
That's in the right of way.
No, the current intake's in the middle of the field.
Okay.
Yep. So we need to have an intake to provide control over the pool. In other words, we want to, after every time it rains, we want to lower that pool back down. Otherwise, it would rain, fill up, and eventually it would go off easement. So we need to have that intake to provide some control. So we need to run a new tile line through here. The section of tile downstream through here is our intention to pay for that on easement. It's just this section through the road we wouldn't be able to pay. And then
There's both tiles across the road there, the blue one and the green, or just?
The blue one starts on the other side of the road. Just the green one goes through it.
Yep. So the green one would be the only new tile installed. Also the road on the right of way. The right of way is yours. So then, like where we're proposing putting some fill here, we'd want to work with you to see if you guys could do that. So the material we could get from the pool, but then as far as placement and grading the ditches and all that, we'd ask that you guys would take care of that.
JD, for the, when you're gonna propose to put that new surface outlet in, the reason you need to go through the road too is you need to change the elevation that comes through the road.
The plan
right now,
I believe we're gonna hook up downstream. Does that sound right? Do you remember?
No, we wanted to keep them separate, and the idea was we still have to, there are people in the drainage district upstream of this that we want to maintain their drainage. So if we put a new intake in there that maybe we want it to take more water than it does now, we don't want to fill up the existing tile with all this extra water from our wetland that we've created. So we feel like the best option is to create a second line dedicated just to draining the surface water from that area. Leave the other one alone. I think we can surface outlet that 16-inch main that's there now by starting flattening it out just below the road. I don't think we need to mess with that one as it goes through the road. It's just
the new one.
having a new one to make sure that we're not overloading that tile to maintain the drainage for the people up above.
So again, to summarize, the cost that we'd be asking you folks to take care of would be the portion through the road and then the grading probably right on the road there to try and build that up, protect the right of way.
But it sounds like you may not want any extra fill there, even if there's water.
I'd be interested in looking at some contours and seeing how this fits together, and there's another option. My gut response is rather not fill in the road ditch. I haven't seen a proposal like this before, so I just need a little.
What are the thoughts on if you were to move your structure back into your right of way or whatever?
Yep.
And left a gap in between and then have an intake in our right of way like we always do.
Yeah.
So you'll have your structure intake that controls your level, but then you, for anything that has absorbed, then that other intake you take.
Yeah. Occasionally, we basically, what you're asking to do is to put an embankment in the pothole itself. And the way water moves through the soil profile, even underground, all that, it just doesn't always work as well. It seems like even when we do that, water just doesn't respect the embankment in some cases. I mean, because there is a low on the backside, even though there's an intake there, I think you're still going to potentially see water there. And it becomes probably more of a maintenance issue.
So you're thinking engineering-wise, if you thicken the road,
yep,
that you don't think it'll absorb through.
That's what we're trying to mitigate, trying to provide some protection, yeah.
You wouldn't use any bentonite or anything like that?
We hadn't considered it.
Well, and this, just to kind of give you an idea, the pothole soil, or the real spongy, mucky stuff, basically stops right at the road. The road is in a perfect place where it's placed here. So we were hoping that we could use the road as our embankment, because we know it's already holding water back. I mean, it's doing that now.
How close to natural elevation is it sitting right now?
The road?
Everything, yeah.
The road is significantly higher than the low to the north. It's about 8 to 10 feet higher. And this one is really strange because the natural drainage wants to go to the south, but it's higher on the south side of the road. I mean, this is a true pothole on the north side of the road where it's quite a bit lower than any of the surrounding ground. So there's no culvert there. And that makes the embankment idea that you were just talking about harder as well. Because then if we, not even thinking about the soil problem where it seeps through the soil under the embankment, if we put just a pipe through that embankment and it's still going to dump on the north side of the road, it has nowhere to go. It's got no culvert to get to the south. It would have to go in the intake like it does today, and it's undersized as it is today.
One alternative we looked at is could we just put in a culvert? But in order to do the culvert, it'd start up here and it would end all the way down here. So by the time you put in that much culvert, that's where we thought the intake with the tile would just be the best alternative. So to get where this elevation here, to get to this elevation downstream, you have to go all the way down here. So everything between the two sections there is higher. Just a funny landscape.
Be interesting to look at a profile of that chunk of it, I guess.
Yep. And we'd be more than happy to meet with you and go take a look at it and get your thoughts. By all means, if there's a better idea that exists, we'd be all for it too. So.
When are you guys wanting to start this, if you do anything?
We would like to we'd like to start a construction plan, or start designs, actually putting together the construction plans as soon as possible. At the same time, we don't really necessarily want to spend a ton of time and energy on those construction plans if we don't have buy-in from folks like yourself. Because if you have major concerns or your landowners are going to say absolutely not, there's a ton of time and energy that goes into drafting this all up to then just change it at some point. So,
how many landowners have you talked to?
Lynn, you've been kind of the landowner contact, so I'll let you talk.
I mean, a lot of this stuff is self-contained. We've talked a little bit to the guys up above. You get Ron Rodinius. Need to talk to him a little bit more. We haven't really told him what the design plans have. Basically, he's had the concern to make sure that his drainage is same or better than what it was, or adequate to what it was.
Wire at Mike also affected there?
That on Mike's side, on the west side of that gravel road, actually goes to the west. It doesn't sound right, but on the west side of that gravel road, there's a tile heads off to the southwest.
Looking at our map, it looks like it covers both sides of the road on 83.
Actually, it wraps around. There's a pothole on both sides of that gravel road at the T intersection. That goes up and wraps around the hill and goes into this tile. The west side of the gravel road, actually on Mike's ground, goes off to the southwest.
So here, this starts here and then it wraps around and then comes down here. So by non-perfing this tile through here, any of their drainage over here, we're still going to continue to maintain. Eventually, their drainage we're proposing would be surface outletted down at this location down there. Typically, the response we get, because on most of these projects, we try and, when we're doing the tile investigation, talk to the folks, because when we're on a boundary, we want to find whatever tile is coming from the neighbors, because we've got to maintain that. So like on Ron Rodinius's, I was out with Lynn on that day. We can dig, but then the best thing to do is just go talk to the landowner and see what they know. And I think his response was typical of most, which is, I don't care what you do as long as my drainage works and you don't make me wetter. So.
Works better.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the intention is I think there are benefits to doing this project in terms of the long-term maintenance and the drainage that these guys have. There's not a lot of drainage that's going to be from upstream, but what is there, hopefully, because the infrastructure is so shot below it, will be as good or better than the condition that is in now. our next step, I guess, if there's no real concerns, is we'll probably start on the drafting portion. The three of us will work on putting together construction plans. When we have a final set of plans and a final set of numbers, we can present those to you. And at that point, if you want to make the decision, yes or no, you could at that point. Right now, it's just kind of the time that if there's a major concern or something like that, it would be a good time to try and address it.
Well, I guess I'd like to see you work with our county engineer
Sure.
on that one.
On the particular road, yep.
And so right now, there's no cost to the landowners. It would only be the county and the secondary road department, right?
As I understand it, yep.
Okay. So do I need to, I mean, I feel like I want to send out letters to the landowners like I did for DLAT 5 and just say that there's a program that they're wanting to
It's
do.
just something to stir the pot. It's unnecessary, I think.
Well, but it's nice for them to know. I mean, so that all of a sudden they don't come and say, well, what are people doing out here? There's no cost, so most people are good.
No cost and no effect for drainage.
Right.
I guess I don't have a strong opinion either way. The only thing that I would have a strong opinion on is that if this adversely affects any surrounding farmer, you're gonna take care of it. Because like I said, we had problems with some land to the west, and I'm not trying to downgrade here, but that was, maybe I'm passing a buck, I don't know, but that was due to an engineer advising us to do the wrong thing. And so, if this adversely affects any unseen thing, you know, I think we need to protect the existing landowners.
Yeah, and we do our very best. That situation has happened before. And I think we've done everything we can when those situations do arrive to try and mitigate an unforeseen effect. One thing, I don't know how comfortable you guys feel when we present these plans. Are you going to feel comfortable reviewing them yourselves, or do you think that you need someone outside, like a neutral third party or something like that, to review them?
Well, I think there's enough certain material to do it ourselves.
Okay.
That is where the public hearing or the information would be nice. Yeah, you're right.
And
a lot of these guys around this, they know a heck of a lot more than you'll ever know.
Sure. So. It's one of those, if we can get agreement from all the stakeholders ahead of time and everyone agrees that this is a good thing and this is a good project, then I feel like everyone has a stake in the game in terms of what works and doesn't work in the future. If we just say this is what we want to do and nobody else really has an opinion, then I feel like if there is an issue, then we just become automatically liable, you know. So I would prefer to have everyone's opinion on it and come to a consensus that, yeah, this is a good project, so.
Well, I would tell the guys in my district, I would say don't sign it, you know, because I got a little information on the telephone company. They have cut lines, tile lines, and it hasn't showed up for 3 years, you know. So sometimes these problems don't show up for a while, and you can argue back and forth whose fault it is.
Right.
But
Here's the contours of that road crossing.
So do we, I mean, if secondary roads has to do a lot of work, we need to get into their schedule too, which is usually set up long beforehand.
Yeah.
do they have to be coincide the work schedule?
I think it takes some cooperation, yeah. I think ideally you'd want to, you know, there may be the potential that we could stockpile material or something like that that you could use, or you could do it on your own schedule, but It's gonna take communication, I think, working together.
Hey Brenda, is there the possibility, just on our end, if we don't do the restoration on that furthest north easement right away, could we come back in later and do that one? Or do we have to do all this together? I mean, I know we'd prefer to do it together.
There's a possibility, but it would take a new obligation of funding to do it, because the obligation that we have currently will expire.
Right, we've already got money sitting there waiting to spend.
And it's
Yes, we have
usually,
to have this
I don't know,
built this year.
percentage.
I mean, the goal is to build this project sometime this year yet, or some of the money is gone. The easements will still remain, but some of the money for restoration.
In a perfect world, we'd like to see construction plans done by spring. Construction start probably, in a perfect world, it'd be, in the spring, but usually it's wet during that time of year. So usually late spring, early summer is usually our first opportunity to do construction, so.
I don't suppose there's any way the county's part of it.
Welcome, Cody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The county's part of it. Is there a way for the county to apply for a grant through your funding, pay for it, so we can just hire somebody to install it? Since it's not in our schedule. So say the same contract actually
You
does
probably
the
wouldn't,
work.
you might be able to hire the contractor that's doing,
Right.
because we actually don't hire the contractors either. We have an outside agency that does that. So you might be able to work with them and hire the people they already have, since they're already
What if it
there.
was one of our stipulations? You take care of the road. Then you could pump it in right with the whole bid.
We just don't have a mechanism to pay for any work that is done outside of our boundary line.
Okay.
That's our problem for doing that.
Right.
So I'm saying you guys could maybe contract with that same contractor that's there directly. But we can't funnel that money through because we can't pay for work in a right of way.
Your boundaries are land specific, like.
Yes, we don't go to the right of, we don't go into the right of ways with any of our easements.
My main issue with this is that it costs the county anything. It's a nice, I see what you're trying to do here, but, I don't know why the county, why taxpayers would have to pay for secondary roads having to do something to.
Hey Brenda, I wonder if private lands through Fish and Wildlife, through Darren, we could ask him. Maybe they pay for caution on our property.
They might be able to. I just know, NRC.
Yeah, I know.
What's this land classified right now?
This was classified as cropland, but the easements were closed on this last spring.
So it's all farmland as of present?
It was farmed, till the fall of 18. A lot of the uplands were seeded, in 19, and then they were mowed on most of this area. So nothing was cropped in 19, it was just seeded, so seeded to native grasses.
So is it off the tax rolls?
That, it should be, but I don't know.
I don't know that answer.
We don't take care of that.
No, I know, I just wondered.
Well, so what program is it in?
It's in the Wetland Reserve easement program.
So there's still a minimal.
We still have taxes in there, yes, but I don't.
The only time that changes is if it goes to the government entity, county conservation or DNR. But any private person that still owns the land pays that minimal tax for wetlands. I guess I'd like to see if we can somehow fund our road construction through another program to accommodate your timeline. Otherwise, to put it in our schedule is going to be tight.
That and some of the taxpayers might not appreciate having to pay to get this going, and then it goes off the tax rolls anyway, or the majority of it, so.
What about the folks that are in this drainage district, since I think you could argue that they're gonna have a lot of benefit? This is all infrastructure that they're not having to maintain in the future. And hopefully their drainage condition is in a little bit better shape, having a free outlet rather than a lot of this that's in really poor shape.
I'm not a big fan of precedents. Precedent says that you take care of your own drainage, basically. So I don't think that's.
And too, even if it wasn't a restoration project and the tile were being replaced, the district still wouldn't pay for that, the road department would.
Right.
So the drainage district doesn't also have the mechanism to pay for right-of-way costs, you know, similar to what you're saying. So we would always bear those as the road department.
Sure.
But normally it's a maintenance or repair
Right.
condition and not a, you know, restoration
Yeah,
case.
you
What
might
kind of
argue,
dollars are we talking here?
for restoration, I haven't put together the total estimate.
Ballpark, within $1 million.
You know, Brenda?
What's clean water worth?
Yeah.
Well, and really it would only be the part that goes between the two easement boundaries. So we're talking, you know, the right of way of the road, which is
I'm talking the
50,
whole
60
project.
feet. Oh, the whole project
Yeah.
is gonna be, it'll be several $100,000.
Just pure guessing on our part, you know, tile across the road, couple days work and some material, maybe a few $1,000, I guess.
Just trying to get in our schedule.
Oh yeah, I mean, we always have to schedule a few of these that are sudden. You know, tile crossings are always spur of the moment. Here's what we found, we gotta replace it, so.
Well, who's paying for, what grant is paying for this?
So through NRCS, when we purchase an easement, we also set aside all the restoration money. So we have an estimated budget for all of the project, but until we get what you'll let us do, what we can non-perf, what size we need to non-perf it with, all that stuff, we don't have a good estimate on it all yet.
So on our process, if we were to notify the landowners that we're looking at doing this, would we have a public hearing or informational hearing?
Yeah, we would do like we did today. Obviously, no landowners showed up for the one, and just say, we're gonna have it on this date for the supervisors to determine if they wanna do it.
But in the meantime, they could call the office for questions or
You
call us
bet.
for questions.
Yep, and then
I
I would
didn't
just
think
forward them
about
right on.
I didn't think a public meeting was necessary, but it'd be very prudent in this case.
Oh, I would recommend it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess my interest is I have interest in this as long as we can make it work.
Yeah.
If it's okay with the people that are affected.
We prefer local buy-in and not have them mad at us
Right,
later.
yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
that's why we're here.
right, and I want that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So can we say middle of March? When do you guys want us to have the landowners know by, or do you want to give them 2 weeks?
Well, really, we can do it anytime we want, because we don't
Right.
have to do it.
I know, but I'm just saying, how long do you want me to give them?
Well, it's like he said, he wants to get going on the plans.
Yeah. You know, if you want to do this as an introductory to the whole project, I'd say do it fairly soon. And then I don't know how you guys do it, if you give them a window of time frame to say, I don't like this or whatever.
Well, I just, on the letter I did for today, it's, the board will decide on today.
As long as they're getting the letter and not having to read it over.
Oh,
Get
yeah.
it done as quick as possible.
And then I'll put it on the website, so in case they happen to go there.
And we'd prefer them come because, you know, we've asked people, but land changes hands, so somebody might know of a tile we don't know about too. You never know. We know county infrastructure and we know all the tile they tell us they have, but
I think that'd be our course of action then. But, I mean, we're all on board with this, if we can make it work.
And a lot of people are south. So if we said the end of February, like what's the last Tuesday?
25th.
I will voice my opinion. I'm not a big fan of using tax dollars to take a piece of land and then take it off the tax rolls, so, but I think that's kind of where you'd be too, is that,
Oh, yeah, budgets are tight enough without cutting your.
But anyway, I mean, we also gotta look at the, natural side of it too, so.
I'm hoping to increase the value of the land that will benefit from it.
Well, the people downstream will benefit because of the whole low waters.
And even the ones up above might get better drainage.
Hopefully better drainage and then hopefully long-term, less maintenance costs.
Right.
Those are the net benefits that I see for the folks that are in the district.
I guess I'd do it as fast as we can, just to help out the time.
Well, 'cause
Can we,
I can't get the letter out today or tomorrow, so I'll get it out by Friday. I want them to have at least 2 weeks to go through the mail and whatever. Some people still haven't gotten their W-2s that were mailed 2 weeks ago, so I want to give people enough time.
25th, we have the hearing from.
Is that okay? Or is anybody available to come and like speak that day? I don't think we need all of you, but.
Sure. I'll check my schedule when I get back.
Yeah, just so if any landowners do come,
Yeah.
we have somebody that can say what we're doing.
Yep. And I think your local field office, NRCS field office, Lynn's there, Josiah's there. Lynn's worked, not spent a ton of time on this project with myself and the others, so this is a great local contact, so.
And if any of you want to see this firsthand, we can always like give you a tour and say, this is where this would be.
I know the area.
So, I mean, just feel free to call and just ask, because we'll show you where things are in the field too, if you want to.
Thank you for your time.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know.
Did all of you sign in on our sheet there?
Yeah. So what
Everybody?
We have federal requirements that we have to have everybody sign in on our meetings.
I already did. Oh no, I did mine.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Yeah, everybody needs to
If
sign.
you haven't
that
signed that sheet, would you please sign it?
There's certain federal regulations that require us to keep a track. If you're speaking at the meeting, it's gonna look obvious you're here and not signed.
flat to outlet it.
Right.
Entertain a motion.
Oh, you're.
Right, and he was making a comment. And
There'll be a second. Senator, to approve the payroll claims, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
haven't seen any
All right, stand adjourned.
So we're basically just avoiding the.
Yeah, 'cause he's fine with it.
So
She's got
going out,
his
and then he goes to the road, same as
Yeah.